All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into something we do literally all the time, but let's be honest, we often mess up: communication. We're going to uncover the 7 big villains that are responsible for our messages getting totally lost, twisted, or just flat out misunderstood.
I mean, it sounds so simple, right? You talk, I listen. I talk, you listen. Easy. But not really. In reality, that whole process is like a minefield just waiting for a misstep. Every single conversation we have is a chance for things to go completely sideways. And today, we're going to figure out exactly why that happens. So, here's the plan. First, we'll tackle what's called the communication illusion. Then, we'll get into the villains behind sending mixed signals and how our own internal filters mess with what we hear. After that, we'll navigate the outside noise that gets in the way. And finally, we'll figure out how to get from all that misunderstanding to some real clarity.
All right, let's jump right in. Before we can really pinpoint why communication breaks down, we've got to have a clear picture of what it's supposed to look like when it's actually working.
So, in a perfect world, this is it. This is interpersonal communication. It's a two-way street, an exchange of info between people with direct feedback, all those nonverbal cues, and actually being close to each other. It sounds simple enough, but this is the ideal, the gold standard, and it's exactly what our villains love to mess with.
Okay, let's start with the problems that begin at the source, the sender. Yeah, that's you when you're the one doing the talking. Our first couple of villains are lurking right there, in the way we actually build and send our messages.
So villain number 1 is a really basic one: a limited vocabulary. Think about it. If you can't find the exact right words, your ideas are basically trapped in your own head. Like if you say you're upset, well, what does that mean? Are you disappointed, frustrated, annoyed? Each one sends a totally different signal. Having a good vocabulary isn't about sounding smart, it's about being clear. And this next one, this one is huge. Villain number 2 is all about incompatible messages. Because let's face it, we communicate with our whole bodies, not just our mouths. So when your words say one thing, but your body language is screaming the complete opposite, which one do you think people are going to believe? Yeah, the nonverbal cues win almost every single time.
And this is a perfect illustration. Just look at this. Someone says, "I'm open to feedback," but their arms are crossed, they're not making eye contact. You're not going to give them feedback, are you? No way. Or your friend says, "Sure, I'm fine," but they're all slumped over, sighing. You know for a fact they are not fine. That mismatch, it just creates static, it creates doubt, and it can totally tank the trust in whatever's being said.
And it's not just about your posture or the tone of your voice. Even our appearance sends a message. It's another form of nonverbal communication. We might wish it didn't matter, but the reality is it's a signal people pick up on, and it can either back up what you're saying or completely undermine it.
All right, so we've looked at the villains on the sender's side of things. Now let's flip the script and look at the receiver. Because a message can be crafted perfectly, sent with crystal clear intention, but it still has to make it through the listener's brain. And that brain, well, it's got its own set of traps and filters.
Okay, villain number 3, emotional outbursts. When we get flooded with strong emotions, I'm talking rage, serious frustration, or even just being over-the-top excited, our ability to think clearly just nosedives. Anger especially can just slam the door on a conversation. It can take a totally neutral comment and twist it into a personal attack. The point isn't to be a robot, but to keep your emotions from hijacking the message.
And the antidote to this, it's what we call emotional intelligence. It really boils down to 3 things: knowing what you're feeling, that's self-awareness; trying to understand what the other person is feeling, that's empathy; and then having the control to manage your own feelings so they don't take over.
Next up, villain number 4, communication selectivity. And this is a big one we're all guilty of. We are just bombarded with information all day long, so our brain does this little trick. It creates a filter. We tune into the parts of a message that are about us, our job, our interests, and the rest, poof, it just gets mentally tossed aside.
Here's a classic example: a big all-hands meeting at work. The CEO gets up and talks about this grand vision for the whole company. But the marketing director, they're just listening for anything about the budget. The lead engineer, they're only listening for new deadlines. They each grab their little piece of the puzzle, but completely miss the big picture the CEO is trying to paint.
And that brings us to villain number 5, which is related but different. It's not just selective listening, it's just, poor listening. See, hearing is passive. Sound waves hit your ears, that's it. But listening, that's an active sport. It means you're not just reloading, waiting for your turn to talk. You're actually working to understand where the other person is coming from. And
As the saying goes, if it were easy, we wouldn't misunderstand each other nearly as much.
So we've talked about the villains inside the sender's head and the ones inside the receiver's head. But what about everything that happens in between? The external stuff, the outside world, that can completely wreck a message no matter how well it was sent or received.
Villain number 6, cultural variations. And in the world we live in today, this one is massive. Something as simple as a hand gesture can be totally friendly in one place and deeply offensive in another. Or think about work culture. A direct, to-the-point style might be seen as efficient in one office, but rude and aggressive in the office next door. If we're not aware of these differences, we're basically set up to fail.
And that brings us to our final villain, number 7, noise in the channel. Now, it's super important to get this. Noise isn't just about sound. It's not just a loud truck driving by. It is anything that interferes with the message on its journey from one person to another. And this is where the idea of noise gets really interesting. Yeah, there's the obvious physical noise, like a terrible phone connection, but there's also visual noise. Think about trying to read illegible handwriting or a super cluttered presentation slide. And maybe the most powerful of all is psychological noise. That's all the static inside our own heads. Stress, biases, or just, wondering what you're going to have for dinner. And here's a brilliant example of that. Just being late for a meeting. That's a form of noise. Before you've even opened your mouth, your lateness has already sent a message, maybe one of disrespect, or that you're disorganized. And that noise gets in the way of anything you say afterwards. It's so true, right? Punctuality is communication.
So there you have it. We've met all 7 villains. The big question is, now what? Well, the journey from misunderstanding to real clarity, it all starts with one simple but incredibly powerful thing, just being aware.
Here they are, the whole lineup. These 7 are pretty much the main reasons our conversations go off the rails. And the first, most crucial step to beating them is just knowing they exist, spotting them in action, both in other people and, more importantly, in ourselves. So next time a conversation feels stuck or you have a misunderstanding, just pause and ask yourself, okay, which one of these villains is causing trouble right now?
And that really brings us to the final question for you. This whole thing isn't just some abstract theory, right? It's a tool you can actually use. So take another look at this list and be really honest with yourself. Which one of these gets you the most? Are you a selective listener? Do you send mixed signals without realizing it? Figuring out your personal communication arch nemesis? Well, that's the absolute key to getting better.